All right, folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado Manny Paquiao.
And Psychic Tom Patrick with a new crystal ball unveiled.
Ready to go. Well, we figured out last week's big main event. We pretty much got that one right. Didn't quite think it was going to end so soon, but turned out to be a pretty big story this week. And ironically, I don't think most of the fans or the general public are even talking about the worst thing that came out of Israel's mouth the other night. You might not even have heard it, Tom, but I don't know whether it was just because I had the TV loud or what it was. No, I was watching it on a feed. But because there's no crowd, you can hear pretty much everything these guys are saying after the fight. And so Paulo Costa loses the fight, and Israel Adesanya is still talking about the weigh-in where Paulo threw the white belt at him, and bragged about himself, being a black belt. So he says, yeah, I'll wrap my dick around my waist and that's my black belt. Says it right out loud. And I was just like...
I hadn't heard that one, but...
yeah, he definitely said it.
And yeah, and I mean, and there's a lot of fallout about the possible steroid use. Have you been following that one?
Yeah, there's just a picture going around of one of his pecs sagging low.
Right? It's called a gynecomastia. I guess it's. I've never used one, but I guess if you use them and if you get the cycle wrong, you can wind up with man boobs. And he has one. Yeah,
one man boob.
He has one. Yeah. And I don't know what his defense is for that, but oh wow. Where do you even begin?
Well, it would explain the behavior, because it's not just bravado anymore. It's just straight up being an asshole. He's air humping him after the fight and just being very, acting very weird. Very overconfident. Not that he shouldn't be. He's a very good fighter. But then Paulo Costa goes in code and says after the fight that there was something going into the fight that will be different next time, and he's going to wait for his opportunity to have his rematch.
Well, if you're knocked out in the first round with one punch, you could make it to it.
Yeah.
As Stipe so aptly demonstrated when he beat Cormier not just once in a rematch, but twice. A fluke can happen. I mean, I don't like the phrase lucky punch. Someone throws it and they intend to land it, and they land it, it wasn't lucky. But you get my drift.
Yeah.
But in this case, this was jaw-dropping. And the worst part of it, I had brought some folks over, and I was expecting, really a far more competitive fight. And did you watch it?
Oh, yeah. I did.
Okay. Now, about 3 minutes into the first round, I started, because I got a lot of news, so I started explaining why you cannot eat those kicks.
Yeah.
And did you notice how bruised his legs were?
Oh, yeah.
And did you notice he was doing nothing except making cartoon faces?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, a little bit of bravado. The bravado was fine. Yeah. You can say, okay, no big deal. But you want to counter.
Right.
And when this continued again and again and again, and after the first round, I was very concerned for him. And now he's talking rematch. Well, I think you have to earn your way back to that. I mean, I don't know who'd want to see an immediate rematch. He said he didn't think he was the night before, and it was a long trip. Well, it's the old cliche. Excuses are like livers.
Well, he lived up to the Ricky Martin billing, anyway.
I was a fan of the guy. I mean, I was really thinking that this was going to be a possible fight of the year. And I don't know what his strategy was. And since then, the MMA world's on fire about the strategy to beat his son. I mean, we know what not to do. Stand there and get kicked and punch. Right. And did you notice in the second round, he'd been kicked so bad he was punched. And that's when the hands came in to finish him off. But as Chael Sonnen said, before he fought Anderson Silva the first time, everyone overestimated Anderson's takedown defense. And if you remember that first fight, Chael Sonnen came within a few minutes of winning every round and beating Anderson Silva until he got caught in the triangle choke. And the consensus is, come hell or high water, it's going to take a good wrestler who is just going to have to go through the gates of hell, get in, and get him on the ground and go from there. Because you can't stand that far away and get picked apart like that. It was just jaw-dropping. It was a massacre. I call it an execution. Mm-hmm. I mean, even when Paulo got in it, he didn't seem to even try to get it to the ground, couldn't get it to the ground. I don't know. Would you weigh in on it? I've said enough.
Yeah, he looked flat. You know, I'd like to hear what he just said. No excuses, but there was something going in. I'd like to hear what the excuse is, you know, because a lot of people are wondering what the hell was wrong with him that night. Because, you know,
yeah,
it wasn't a sense of, like we talked about with Tyron Woodley, just not being the same fighter anymore. This is an undefeated fighter. You know, maybe Adesanya got into your head, but yeah, he was just very plodding. He really plodded around the ring. He didn't seem to have any speed.
And then there was another rumor that he balloons up between fights to at one point he was around 230 or something like that. Well, again, when you're fighting 185,
yeah.
Why in the world are you going to 230? Now, I don't know if that's true. I have no way of knowing that. But if your whole fight camp is devoted to weight loss, that's not a good situation.
Yeah, well, he did miss weight, right? He had to have missed weight because Adesanya said something about the weight issue after the fight. And he said he should be fined 90% of the fighters should be fined 90% of their purse for missing their weight. And that's another thing I picked up on the mic. He went over to Dana White before that, and he tells Dana White it should be 80%. And then he goes on the mic and he said, I just told Dana White it should be 90%. He's just using two different numbers.
I know as much as as much as I'm not a fan of this, yeah. I have to agree with him on that.
Yeah.
But, and I guess it was an issue with a few other fights. It was not an issue in that fight. Paulo did get to 185. But I'm saying that could be one possibility because he was out with an injury, and if he did let himself to get, north of 230, it's a lot of weight to lose.
Yeah.
So he says he'll be back, but I just question how you would come back mentally from something like that. I mean,
that was an embarrassment.
Can I ask a supremely dumb question?
What's that?
Yeah, no, and you were saying, like I said, I was away all last weekend, so I didn't see anything. I watched, no TV from Thursday till I got back on Sunday. I don't even know if we had a TV where the place I was staying. But he was saying something like a fighter should lose 80, or then he said 90% of his purse. I'm like, okay, now I think about it. So let's say, and I'm just going to use a round number here. I'm going to use $1 million. Okay, so you sign a contract to fight for $1 million. So now you're cutting that down to either 100,000 or 200,000. Hey, and that's a good bit of money. But what are the odds that a fighter is going to turn around and say, you know what, you're right. I signed for $1 million, but I'll fight for 100,000. You're going to lose fights doing that. I know when you have in boxing where a fighter misses weight. I mean, I've only seen a handful of times where they said he missed weight so bad that they canceled the fight. A lot of times what will happen if it's a title fight, and it'll be like, fighter A misses weight, so he is not eligible to win or retain his title, but fighter B, who made weight, is eligible to win, will retain if he's the champion. And sometimes the fighter that doesn't make weight will get a fine that goes to his opponent. So if fighter A misses the weight, he might forfeit so much. It's usually like $5,000 or whatever, and that goes to the fighter that made weight. And I can appreciate that. When you're just saying you should fine this guy 80 or 90% of what you contracted for.
Yeah.
Because the guy that didn't make weight, so well, fuck it, you know.
Yeah.
Then I'm not fighting at all, and then you get nothing.
Yeah.
Well, but then on the other hand, there should be severe consequences to that. Because right now it's 20% in the UFC. And boxing, I think it's up to the state athletic commission. I think there's a lot of different ones in boxing. Right. But in MMA, it's pretty much a flat 20%, and there is zero deterrence about that. It doesn't work. Yeah, I'm going to.
Well, the other thing he said when he mentioned that
have a big advantage
was he said some of these people outside of MMA are gangsters, and he wasn't specifically inferencing Costa, but you wonder, who's he talking about? Who are these gangsters that are making crazy money outside the UFC?
That's just going down some kind of mental rabbit hole.
Yeah. Where's that coming from?
I wonder what it has to do with the issue. So what if they're gangsters?
Yeah.
Talking about what they do when you're in the cage
and
making weight on that. But I mean, it is a serious problem. And Tony, your point's well taken on that. It's very well taken, but then again, maybe that person shouldn't be a fighter. You're just respecting the whole sport. And I look at some of the stuff that you've said you've done. You know, fighting in within a couple-week period. Well, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, it would be probably a lot harder for you to do it now because you're older. But still, enough. I mean, it probably still, being a young guy, it almost killed you, but you did it. Yeah. So why can't these other guys?
You know, and it was maybe a summer or two ago, and it might have even David Lemieux. It was somebody that was a perennial title challenger, honestly. And it was going to be like a Friday night fight on, ESPN or whatever it was on. And my dad and I were going to watch it. And what happened was, he was so dehydrated, he was in the sauna for like a couple hours and only lost a quarter of a pound because he was so, had to get canceled because they had to rush him to the hospital because his body was going into shock, for being so dehydrated. And then it said it took 8 bags of fluid to, keep him, hydrate himself enough, not in danger anymore. So, and I remember my dad looking at me, he goes, wow, he goes, you never leave. Stupid. Well, I said, yo. Yeah. I said, is that a challenge? Is that a challenge?
Yeah.
I can be a lot stupider than him.
But I mean, it still begs the question: should you be fighting at a higher weight, or should you have? Is it just a lack? One cuts through after 5 or 4.
Let's. I think a lot of it is case by case. Take a guy like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Complete lack of respect, complete lack of anything. I mean, that was a kid that was just spoiled from day one. When he was going to fight Andy Jacobs, he came in like 6-7 pounds overweight, and basically I said, I have no intention of making the weight. And Jacobs turned around and said, you know what, well, we're going to fight anyone, and still work through things. So that's a guy right there that has no respect for anybody. Then you take somebody like a David Lemieux in that situation, where maybe in his, I fought at say 168 or 160, for so many years, I can still make it. And it's like, you're getting older, your metabolism's slowing down a little bit. Sometimes you physically cannot do that anymore. And he's trying, and it's like, normally you would eat this diet and you would do this workout, the weight comes up. I know times on myself, it's like I would do something, I'm like, what do you mean I'm not losing weight? This has always worked for me before. Or instead of losing 5 pounds a week, you're losing 3.5 pounds a week. Your body is just not as fast as it used to be. Your body is, aging, and it's harder to keep that weight off. You're physically growing, and so he's like, so he's signed for 160, and the body says, you know what, you're doing these workouts and all that, you're not going to make 160. I'll tell you who's a great example was Vinny Paz. We talked to Vinny 12 years ago. Amazing, it's been that long. 12 years ago, and I remember one of the things he said to me was, he goes, I never had to, not cut weight for a fight. And I can relate to it because Vinny's Italian, and you see him bleed for this. every Sunday, big family pasta dinner. Well, of course, Vinny, you're going to have a hard time making weight. You're eating pasta all the time, But Vinny at lightweight was killing himself. He bumps up to junior welter, and you know what? After a while, he's killing himself again, so those 5 pounds weren't helping. He jumps 2 weight classes to, junior middleweight, and it's still, he was a lot stronger, but shortly after that, hard time making weight. It got to the point where he was fighting up at 168, and he was still there. Right. The one fight when he fought Rosenbaum the first time, the contracted weight was 165, and I remember them even saying on the thing, they're like, Vinny is bursting at the seams right now to lose this extra 3 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that reminded me, he fought Duran at 168, and Duran was another example.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how Duran had to keep moving up and kept having all that trouble. And a lot of it, like you say, is age, and I think Duran's lifestyle, lifestyle's well in control. Age is not, but still, it's...
And with Vinny always liked, especially as he started moving up, Vinny was really getting more and more into weight, especially after he broke his neck. So, and that was part of his rehab. So as Vinny's doing more and more on the weight muscle adds weight. That's the fact, So you're not getting any taller, but at the same time, your body is thickening. But, so with Vinny, there was never really a lack of discipline. He would, just kill himself to do it. They sure didn't bleed for this. Now, we had a teammate of mine at Lock Haven. His name's Patrick Woody, and Patrick and I still talk sometimes. We're still friends. He was pretty much senior and was finishing when I was a freshman. Patrick, 2 years before I got there, won the national title at 119 pounds. Little guy, right? Wins it at 119. Has to cut weight to make 119. And they were saying at the regionals, he had to buy the whole way through. Nobody was going to challenge him. All he had to do was step on the scale, and he's going to nationals. Damn near kills himself. And the night before the regionals, he's like 2 pounds overweight, and he goes, maybe I'll drink a 6-pack of beer, and that'll make me piss more, and I'll lose weight. He steps on the scale the next morning, instead of being 2 pounds over, he's 6 pounds over, and he's killing himself in the sauna. The following year, they bumped Patrick up to 125. Has to kill himself to make weight. The next year, they bumped him up to 132, and he has to kill himself to make weight. Our joke weight class that Patrick would not have to kill himself to make was heavyweight.
Nuts. Yeah, it's always going to be a big issue, unfortunately. It's one of those things no other sport has to deal with. Well,
yeah.
Other sport genre, let's say, usually. Imagine if they had to weigh the football players before every match. Yeah, that'd be a problem. All right.
I do know some teams will, and this is not just football, but in any sport, they'll have induced fines if the guys are over a designated weight. So they might have, like in basketball, they might say, okay, you need to be at whatever or under. Mm-hmm. We had a problem. We had a guy in Philadelphia back in the 90s. He was a perennial all-star, but he was just so undisciplined by the name of Derek Coleman. Could have been one of the best players in the league, but he had no discipline. And they used to have to fine him because he was always so grossly out of shape. And the guy that was our GM at the time was a physical trainer and a physical therapist. And he was fining him, and the guy's like, you can't do that, are you a lawyer? He's like, no, but I am a physical conditioning coach, and you are hurting the team and yourself. That's why you're always injured, because you're playing out of shape.
Yeah, good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, take an offensive lineman, in the NFL. Say my Eagles got a guy, and, he's a solid 320, 6'5", a solid 320. But then the next thing you know, he's coming in and he's really getting lackadaisical and all that. And he's, oh shit, he's up to about 360 now. And he's missing steps. So they say, you know what? Hey, Jeff, we're going to put a clause in there that if you come in this out of shape or you come in over a designated weight, you're, get fine, 10% of your salary.
Well, yeah, we'll figure something out eventually. Going on with the UFC 253 card. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, sports is always dangerous because there is that element of, contact in there. And it's like, do you want to make them weigh in day of? Or you be entering the ring so dehydrated, and then you have injuries, and potential deaths? Or do you do the day before and then have them do the Arturo Gatti where they balloon up 20-some pounds and fight a guy that's now 2 weight classes below them?
Joey Gamache. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big problem. A lot of guys can put on almost 20 pounds in a single night. So, it's almost a science now. But anyway, we didn't have much of an issue, I don't think, with either guy in the co-main event, but they also ended early. TKO in the second round. I actually fell asleep and woke up during the knockout. I fell asleep during the first part of the fight and woke up to the knockout. So I was like, I guess I'll have to watch the next one in the morning. And I watched the next one after the fact. But it was a good fight, from what I remember. Dominic was surprised. He definitely got rushed and caught. And it's a whole new light heavyweight division now.
Yeah, you could just sort of tell in that one with Dominic, it just doesn't. It wasn't his night. I don't know if he was a bit overconfident, but it just seems like nothing was working right, and Jan was so relaxed. Yes. That's what I noticed.
Hard to believe that's the same Dominic that went all 5 rounds with John Jones. It didn't look like.
Well, I'm hoping that didn't take a lot of. He didn't seem to take a beating against Jones. No. I mean, I thought he should have got the decision, and he seemed like he'd bounced back from it. Here he's fighting for the title, but there's an old cliche. Sometimes it's just not your night. It's not working.
Yeah.
And he seemed a bit gun shy, and Jan was just he was just masterful. I mean, he was so relaxed. And again, with you guys, I like to try to school him a bit on this stuff. And I said, now you see, it's not blowing his wad. He's just taking his time. And just a masterpiece.
Yeah, and then before that we had Brandon Royval take it to Kai Kara France by guillotine choke submission. That was 48 seconds into the second round.
That was very entertaining. That was back and forth, and
two tough guys. Yeah, they were all over each other. And then Caitlin Vieira beating Sajara Eubanks by unanimous decision before that. And one of my favorite endings of the night before that, Hakeem Dawodo, talk about no crowd noise, over Zubaira Tukugov. That was a split decision win for Hakeem. And in the third round, Zubaira was trying to make use of the whole cage, and Hakeem kept yelling, "Stop fucking running!" And everybody could hear it. And then he yelled, "Let's fight, bitch!" or something like that. And the ref actually interrupted them and said, hey, now let's be respectful.
Watch your language.
Yeah, watch your language.
Watch your language.
We're just trying to work here, he goes. It reminded me of the parrots that got moved at the zoo there in Europe because they were swearing to the people. They were swearing at the general public. Anyway, Hakeem, yeah. He made it viral, too. A couple of days later, I saw it. It was a headline that he screamed him in the middle of the match. Also, Brad Riddell in the sixth fight of the night, beating Alex De Silva Coelho. And if anybody was looking forward to Diego Sanchez's fight, they were sorely disappointed.
Oh, boy.
Jake Matthews really showed how complete a fighter he is, too.
Now, Rich, were you following MMA back on the first season of The Ultimate in 2005?
Barely. It was barely on my radar, but I didn't get into it until 2006 for wanting to watch it all the
well,
time.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking, if you remember the original Diego Sanchez, the young guy,
Yeah.
very aggressive. I mean, he felt like a maniac sometimes. He would just sprint across the ring at his opponent, which would get him in trouble sometimes. But he's still fighting like he's 23.
Yeah.
Well, the problem, he's almost 40, and he's been in a lot of wars.
Yep.
And it was just a sad situation. And Stephen Bonner was in his corner, too, by the way.
Yep.
How about that? And they both had done some LSD up in the mountains.
Yeah, we talked about that this week.
Commuted with the spirits.
I think he was still on it, Diego, the other night. He didn't look good.
Yeah.
He got split open pretty good.
I was sad.
Bleeding. And, at least Jake Matthews, to him, Diego was sort of a hero, so it was like, to him, it was still beating his hero.
Well, that's the game. I mean, how many decades have all three of us seen this, where the young guy, was Rocky Marciano and Joe Louis.
Yeah.
You go back to that. Rocky said he's in the ring, and he couldn't believe it was Joe Louis coming to fight me. But you got to take care of business.
Yep.
And Jake did. It was he just picked his shots. Diego just could not seem to. I mean, he couldn't get it to the ground. When he would get it to the ground, he was in a bad position. He was getting just ate up, and then he really started leaking in that last round. But he hung in there. His heart's still there, but not much else. And he's got. I guess he wants to keep fighting. He wants to fight Conor. Wants to get a big money fight.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't know. Conor's supposedly fighting Manny now. We're going to talk about that next.
Yeah, I heard about
that. Before Diego, real quickly, I wanted to mention the most, probably the craziest knockout of the night before Diego was Ludovic Klein over Shane Young. It was a head kick and punches. Just took him a minute and 16 seconds there. And there wasn't anything really too fantastic before that. It was a scarf hold submission by Juan Espino in the second fight of the night. But yeah, the big news going around is Conor MacGregor versus Manny Pacquiao, and the bigger news is not really being expounded upon, but the whole idea of the Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor charity match that's being planned is a big story that they're failing to really capitalize on, because if these guys go around the UFC and do a charity match, like they're doing the Mike Tyson playbook, basically, is what they're doing. They want to basically create a niche where they can fight without the UFC being involved, and they can still make money somehow. And Conor McGregor has his own promotional company from the Floyd Mayweather deal. So he could actually do this. And they've already been trying to plan it. And now Dana White has suddenly offered him the Poirier fight inside the octagon, apparently. And Poirier's already accepted. So, just by putting it out there that they were going to do a charity match, Dana White had to flip the script, because he cannot let that happen. I mean, all hell will break loose for his whole promotion if people start doing that shit. And then on top of that, they weren't even going to go through the UFC for the Manny Pacquiao fight. And I think that's his beef, is the UFC contracts. It's suddenly become too many constraints there for him, and all the stuff that he wants to do. And whether it's because he's a family man now and wants to think about his kids, or whether it's just because he likes to keep his money, a lot of money that he's made. He wants to somehow be different than everybody else and not have to deal with all this exclusivity. He wants to make his own money. He wants to be his own boss. And he hasn't always gotten along great with Dana White, but now they're talking about bro code and everything like this because he shared certain texts of Dana White's, and there's definitely a beef going on there. They're definitely pissed at each other. And I don't really think he deserves the attention that he gets. I mean, he's not that great a fighter. It's his mouth that gets him his attention, and his brashness. But as far as fighting goes, I mean, the last guy he beat was a guy that's been around forever, and was probably doing it more for the money than anything, and taking fights whenever he could for the money, and blowing it as quick as he got it. And now Cowboy's a family man, so he has to think about it differently. But yeah, my basic point is it just seems like this is a big turning point for the UFC if you're going to have one of their stars throw these hissy fits and get his way by trying to go around them. And he's smart enough to really know what he's doing. Nobody should think this is just accidental that it happened that way, that he was really planning to do this charity match. I don't think there's always probably his goal to get them to change their tune by pretending to do the charity match. I don't think he was going to go through with it. But the whole Manny Pacquiao thing is intriguing to me because, number one, supposedly Conor is looking in incredible shape. Number two, Manny Pacquiao is a little bit lower on the totem pole than Floyd as far as draws. And he probably needs the extra attention as much as Floyd would like to have it. I think Manny needs it more than anything right now, just to get his, his image back in the public eye, more. He hasn't really.
And when I look at a matchup like this, you look at what could be different from 3 years ago, and when MacGregor fought Mayweather. Mayweather, as we know, is a very cerebral fighter. He neutralizes guys. He doesn't take unnecessary risks in the ring, and he fought a style where he actually fought the incorrect way to fight a southpaw. He moved to the right, figuring that MacGregor was trained that he's going to come to the left. And he just kind of threw him off a little bit. But Mayweather, he kept biding his time, took MacGregor into deep water and drowned him. He didn't take any unnecessary risks, and he just methodically did his job. Now, Pacquiao, on the other hand, is going to be a different story. Pacquiao is a gunslinger. He's always known for his fast speed, rapid fire combinations, but he's also hittable. So, and we've seen Pacquiao get knocked out. We've seen Pacquiao on the ground for 5 minutes. So, is this a fight where maybe MacGregor has that, gunslinger chance with that big left hand? Absolutely. I think it'll be more entertaining than the Mayweather fight was. So we'll see.
Yeah, I still think Pacquiao wins. But
I think Pacquiao wins. But you know what? I think it'll be more of a firefight than the Mayweather fight was. The Mayweather fight was Mayweather biding his time, landing a shot, biding his time, neutralizing MacGregor, landing a shot. Okay, I'm starting to hit him. Okay, he's breathing a little hard. Let me throw 2 shots instead of 1 shot. Okay, let me counter this, and stand a little bit more flat-footed. Where Pacquiao's like, you know what? I'm throwing. I'm coming to throw punches.
Right.
I'm not going to 10 rounds. If I only get 4, then it'll be a better 4.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be a knockout the next time. I think he'll definitely go the distance. But,
I totally agree.
It's gonna be pretty crazy though. Seeing him, just watching this guy make his own freaking way, it's just been unreal. And just to have the commissions agree to that kind of a fight in the first place was blew my mind the first time around. Here's a guy with his whole career in boxing, and he's facing a guy who's 0-0, making his pro debut. It was unheard of, but they let it happen. They let it happen somehow. And it's money talks, I guess.
In a way, like when Pete Rademacher made his pro debut, to fight Floyd Patterson for the heavyweight championship of the world, except the fact that he was an Olympic gold medalist. This was the guy that was no boxing experience at all.
Yeah. None except for
but
sparring.
a big draw. Yeah.
None at all.
Money talks.
And then
Money talks.
there's another story that's going around. Paul Daly, actually, speak about weight cuts. He had a bad weight cut. He got hospitalized prior to... he was supposed to headline, actually, tonight in Milan, Italy, for Bellator against Derek Anderson. But sometime during this fight week, he got hospitalized due to the weight cut. So, his next fight, he says, is going to be at a 175-pound catch weight, and it's his last fight. So, obviously, the weight cut is making him think, well, geez, I can't do this anymore, period. Never mind for the next fight, I can't do it anymore at all. So, yeah, it's crazy. But there's no opponent yet, no date. He just knows the next one's going to be his last. That just came through on SureDog. Holly Holm got a big fight coming up this weekend. 13-5, facing Irene Aldana, who's 12-5. Don't know much about Irene. Haven't seen much of her fights, but Holly's been unpredictable. She's been up and down. She pretty much only lost to legend killers. Chris Cyborg there, and Amanda Nunes, right? Recently, so I think she's going to be able to handle Irene. And then we have Jorgen De Castro in the co-main event. He's 6-1, fighting Carlos Felipe, who's 8-1. Also, Jermaine De Randami, 9-4, fighting Juliana Pena, who's 9-3. And we got Kyler Phillips, 7-1, against Cameron Else, who is 10-4. Daquan Townsend comes in at 21-11, fighting Dusko Todorovic, who is 9-0. Carlos Condit back in action. He is 30-13, fighting Court McGee, who's 19-9. We got Charles Jourdain, who is 10-3, fighting Joshua Kulibau, who is 8-1. Jordan Williams, 9-3, fighting Nassourdine Imavov, who's 8-2. Third fight tonight is Jinyu Frey, who is 9-5, fighting Konklak Sufi Sara, who is 4-2. And we got Casey Kenny, 14-2, with one draw, fighting Haile Alateng, who's 14-7-1. First fight tonight, Jessen Ayari, 16-5, fighting Luigi Vendramini. I believe we got some Bellator going on. Obviously tonight. Italy, right? Let me find that somewhere. You'll be pleased to know that Angel Jesus won his fight last week. I believe. I checked the record. Actually, it just says P next to the result, so I don't know what happened. But I actually looked at his record. And Angel Jesus has beef with Jesus Antonios. It's the second time he's fought a Jesus Antonio. Different guy. Same two names. What a coincidence. So, not only has he fought a Jesus Antonio twice, he's also, before he fought Jesus Antonio, fought Marco Antonio Monteros. So I think he's got something against the name Antonio.
It's got something with that middle name.
Yeah. Jesus Antonio Bustamante. That's who he fought last weekend. Then he fought Marco Antonio Monteros before that, who was 7-12. He fought an 0-3 guy before that, had no Jesus or Antonio in it. And then before that, Jesus Antonio Lopez Armenta, who was 8-25-2. Angel Jesus. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he must have won. It's Bustamante there, but for some reason they don't give us the schedule. The actual results. Anyway, the big fights over the weekend. Jermell and Jamal, I believe both were on the winning side of their fights. I don't see the other one on here, but I see Jermell.
Did you see any of those, Rich? Did you see any of those?
Did not.
I know you said you weren't near television, but
it was pay-per-view.
You didn't see any. Well, I watched.
So I was.
I watched the.
I was going to have to wait for the replay, and I didn't tune in on the night of the replay, so I didn't get to see it. But
well, it was after 3 rounds of the Dusenko fight, I knew pretty much the direction that was going in, and I had to keep bouncing around because I wanted to see Sanchez. So I didn't see it round for round, but it just seemed like he's a tough guy, and he'd get in on Charlo, but he just didn't have the big punch, and he got himself in a hole, and that was pretty much it.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunate. But anyway.
Yeah, when I was talking to my dad, I had sent him when I was actually down the shore. I had sent my dad the lineup of what was on. I was like, okay, at this time we got ESPN Plus. At this time we got DAZN. At this time, and I didn't realize. And maybe my dad did it wrong. He was looking for Showtime, but it was like, no, I heard it's Showtime pay-per-view, and he goes, I ain't paying $75 watching a Charlo's fight. I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. But like I said, I had my own fish to fry.
Yeah, we had some interesting fights last weekend too. Had a big female fight. Dinah Thorsland over in Denmark, beating Nina Radovanovic, staying undefeated. She's going to be moving to 15-0. The WBO World Female Super Bantamweight title, I believe she must have been the one that had it, being undefeated. So she keeps that. And that was the only big fight on that card. It was a heavyweight fight, though. Philip Hrgovic, 10-0, stays undefeated as well over Alexander Kartozia, falls to 8-2-1. And we had Uniel Dorticos over there in Bayern, Germany, losing to Myris Bradis. Both of them had 1 loss going in. Now Dorticos has 2. And I believe that was for some kind of Super Series deal that they did again. And there was COVID screw-up involved. Somebody tested positive, so the alternate had to step in for this final. It was like a Super Series deal they did again. Cruiserweights. Anyway, Dennis Radovan in the co-main event, beating Nuhu Lawal. I don't believe he's any relation to Robbie. Not Robbie, Mo Lawal. Dennis Radovan came in at 13-0-1, improves to 14-0-1. Lawal falls to 27-8. And then we had the big card. The big one. Come on. Any day now. They'll show it to us. Alright, there it is. Jermell and Jamal both winning their fights. Only 1 title for Jamal over Sergey Derevyanchenko. And then the 3 titles for Jermell over Jason Rosario. We had Daniel Roman beating Juan Carlos Payano. Luis Nery beating Aaron Almeida. So Nery wins the Somebody's Always Gotta Go fight. Almeida takes his first loss. And the vacant WBC World Super Bantamweight title goes to Nery. Pretty good. Your 31st win there. And then John Real Casimiro beating Duke Micah, giving him his first loss for the WBO World Bantamweight title. That was pretty cool. Brandon Figueroa also staying undefeated, 21-0-1 against Damian Vasquez, who falls to 15-2-1. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, and I think the mismatch of the week last week we had was Iron Alvarez, Canelo's older brother, right? Lightweight in Florida. Iron Alvarez, who came in at 10-0 He beat Marcelo Williams, who is 0-6, now 0-7. Big surprise there. I don't know, I guess 0-6. Taking candy from a baby right there. Now, this weekend, believe it or not, one of the big 3 fights is one of our former guests that we had on the show. And I bet you if I give you 15 chances, you wouldn't guess unless you know who's fighting this weekend.
Well, I mean, Rich, here's the problem. I've been on the show with you for 12 years. I mean, we've interviewed a lot more than 15 people. Now, I can obviously eliminate some of the retired fighters. Like I could say, it's definitely not Ray Mercer. It's definitely not Riddick Bowe or Rory Jones, because we know he's busy coming up. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, you probably... Well, this is a good clue. You definitely would not be able to spell it. His last name. Without looking it up. But it's on ESPN Plus. The main event is Jose Zepeda. He's 32-2, fighting Ivan Baranchik, who is 20-1. That's for the vacant WBC Silver Super Lightweight title. And the co-main event is the one I'm talking about. Gabriel Flores Jr. comes in at lightweight, undefeated, 18-0, fighting Ryan Kielczewski. Remember that name? Yeah, we interviewed him probably, I want to say, like 3 years ago now. And I'll always remember him because
I remember.
We went to all the fights in the Boston area that I went to with Dennis and on my own for the show. I'd always see him and his dad there, and his dad had these jacked friggin' biceps, like huge. You could see him across the auditorium every time. Yeah, that's him. Yep, it's Ryan's dad. But yeah, it was probably about 3 years ago, maybe a little sooner. Tough to remember exactly when, but yeah, we definitely interviewed him not too long ago. And now he's up in the co-main event here on ESPN. From the MGM Grand, too. I don't know if he's fought a lot in Las Vegas. Usually he's like an Atlantic City, New England type guy.
Well, I guess there's so many limited right now where fights can be. It's like, all right, you got your MGM Grand in the bubble, and you got, I guess the spot they were doing a couple shows down in Florida in the bubble or Connecticut. I was watching the one show from Connecticut last weekend, and the referee, Johnny Callis, that was for the kid from Philly, the Boots fight. Johnny Callis was the referee, and he was one of the last guys I drank with before we all got shut down.
Well, looking at this guy he's facing, Gabriel Flores Jr., doesn't seem to have a whole lot of big names, anyway, on his victim list so far. A guy named Matt Conway, Josek Ruiz, Elio Mesquita. One guy who was 23-5 is probably the best record of anybody he's faced. That was Eduardo Pereira dos Reis. That was in Stockton, California. That's really it. But Kielczewski, on the other hand, big names, but big records. He beat a 21-0 guy, Miguel Flores. I wonder if that's his brother, Gabriel Flores Jr. Miguel Flores, 21-0. He beat him back in 2016. He's beaten 16-1 Rafael Vasquez, 21-2 Frankie D'Alba. So yeah, I like Kielczewski in this one. Oh, that was a loss to D'Alba. Sorry, I read that wrong. And it was a loss to Miguel Flores too, by the way. I was just looking at the record and not the wins and losses. But he did beat Rafael Vasquez, 16-1. That was a unanimous decision. They had lost to D'Alba, all by decisions, though. You know, he's a very tough go all the way fighter. Tommy Coyle, he had a loss to at the TD Garden back in 2018. That was his last loss. But yeah, I still like him in this fight. He's got a lot of experience, good experience. A lot more than his younger competitor here. Alright. So, we got a UFC fight coming up this weekend. And it's Holly Holm and Irene Aldana. We already went over that one, didn't we? Yes, we did. Actually, this is the first weekend I'm trying out the FanDuel for the MMA. I've never done the fantasy MMA for FanDuel. And
oh, wow.
I checked it out, and it was like way smaller as far as the attention that the football gets. So there's like typically like hundreds of thousands of people in every NFL contest, the big ones. For the UFC, there's like 17,000. And they don't have any other MMA. They just have UFC on FanDuel. I don't know about DraftKings, but I thought that was kind of crazy. So we'll see. But the most expensive fighter on this weekend's card is in the middle of the card. It's not Holly Holm. It's not any of the main event people. It's Charles Jourdain, who's number 5 on the card. He's 10-3, fighting an 8-1 guy. But I do believe it's his opponent's first time in the UFC, so that might have an impact on why they think he's going to do so well. But yeah, I think it's something like first round knockouts or submissions get all kinds of crazy points, and I should probably just simplify it and go right to the sports book rather than keep trying to win on these fantasy games. But since it's legal in New Hampshire now, sports betting is legal, I could actually sign up for the sports book. So I don't know, maybe I'll do that before the end of the year. I need some money. I need to buy a new engine for my truck. Alright. So I think that's about it as far as big news and events for the week. So you guys got anything to chime in with? I forgot about.
I just want to leave you guys with one of my idiot tidbits of the week, because I always try to bring a little humor and a little levity to this, and especially right now, because we're all going through it, and so last week, you guys know I was going down to New Jersey. I was in a wedding last week, and I was I was really flustered going into it, because I'm out of my game. It's not my game, and I agreed to this, over a year ago, and every little thing was just making it worse, and it was getting me a little worked up, and it was a stupid thing, like when we had to cancel Las Vegas, and they went up the mountains instead, and I was like, I'm not doing that, just because it would be isolated, and for me, that would really be hard for me to sit still, especially, being so wound up and frustrated, and then it was like, we looked at the suits, and first he wanted us to buy them. I said, I'm not doing that. And then they were gray. I'm like, guys, I don't wear gray very well. Here's why. I'm going to tell you. So we get down there, and I'm calming myself down. I worked out really hard last week, and I'm like, all right, I'm going with a positive mind frame. So I get down there, and okay, things are going great. I'm calming down. Went to see my buddy Chuck Masaccio, because it was in the town where he lives in Jersey, but unfortunately he was away. We get to the rehearsal dinner. He gives us our gifts. What does he give me? An engraved switchblade. Yes, that's correct. An engraved switchblade. I immediately open it up and start playing with it, and I immediately nick the tip of my left pointer finger. Oh, I mean, and when I say nick, I mean nick. But it bled and bled and bled and bled, and it's bleeding all over the place. And then, so I wrapped it up in a bandage, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be all right. So the next day, I'm doing my whatever. So now we got to start getting ready. So we go close to where the wedding was going to be, because we were staying 3 blocks away. And we're down there. I get dressed. I put on my gray suit. I take the bandage off. We start walking down the aisle. In the middle of walking down the aisle, I brush my hand against my leg, and I open it up. Little nick starts bleeding. Now I'm standing up there, holding my thumb to my pointer finger, looking like I'm making a gang sign. And I'm trying to be inconsistent. I'm looking. I got drops of blood on the gray suit. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. Then I'm like, then it's like, oh, by the way, and then he also gave my friend Mike a straight razor. Mike, I'm going to try to use this to shave. Cut himself. My friend Stephanie goes, why is he giving you 2 idiots weapons? You're the last 2 I would give anything sharp to. I said, I agree. I agree. So, but I turned to Mike after, we're there, and I got salad dressing on my pant leg. I got blood on the jacket. And when we had changed in the groomsmen's room, we had taken the clothes and we put them in his truck, because I was going to ride back with him and his wife. And I said, Mike, I got to get out of this. I said, I'm so uncomfortable right now. I said, let me go get him. He goes, who's him? And he looked at me, and I looked at him. He goes, no, not him. We all know him. Him is the tank top me with the big stupid hat on and the comfortable, idiotic me. We had a guy crash the party. He met one of our younger friends, and so we're up there going to the restroom. This guy's like, hey, man, I'm looking for Steve. He's in a black suit. I'm like, yeah, he's down there. I'll go get him for you. I said, let me go to the bathroom. I'll go get him. I come out from the bathroom. I don't see this guy. He snuck into the wedding. He was outside. He snuck into the tent. People are like, who's this guy? I'm like, I don't know. He was talking to the idiot over here, and I went to get the idiot, and next thing you know, the guy just infiltrates the wedding. So he hung out with us for about an hour. Then he's hanging at the after party, drinking free booze, and then we're all going to head back to the rooms. And he's like, where we go? Well, I'll tell you where we're going. I don't know where you're going. Well, we're going back. Well, guys, I'm looking for someone to hang out with. Well, it's not us. Well, I got paper. That's great. And I got rock and I got scissors. And they're back in the room. And that's where I'm going. Wait, nothing's getting out on the beach. Like, I don't know what you are.
Right.
You just crashed the wedding. You got free drinks. Take it out at you. It's never a dull moment.
Yeah. Sounds like he had the plan.
Never a dull moment.
Unreal.
Yeah. Well, the kid that he was talking to, this kid Stevie, is my one friend's son, who's in his early 20s, and he's 24. And he's an idiot. I love the kid, but he's an idiot. And he even as a kid, he would always do dumb stuff where you'd want to choke him, but he's funny. But now, as he's getting older, he's still, thin. So he's only about, 150 pounds, maybe. But he's tall. But he runs his mouth, and I can whip this guy's ass. So then he'll step me, and he's trying to, box me. Well, you know what? I ain't going to play with you. I'm going to pop you in the ribs and in the arms, and then I'm going to show you who I am. And so I did it a few weeks ago, and then he complained. And then we did it again. They're hitting me, really popping him. I'm like, you're damn right I am. And then he's talking to me. He's like, I got my one friend. He'll kick everybody's ass. Whatever. I'm like, and he goes, yeah, I can't bet against him. I'm like, well, if you want to lose money, bet on him. You want to lose money, you bet on your friend. Because my friend Mike's like, he's only ever had one fight. He was so nervous he threw up when it was done. Yeah, but he kicks everybody's ass. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, this kid, when he gets drunk, his friend Kenny could be King Kong, Godzilla, Mike Tyson, and Jesus Christ all in the same night.
I'm sure he could. That's nuts.
But you know what? And we had a lot of laughs, and that's what you need. And me, I try to make fun of things. Like people are like, why do you have blood on your tuxedo? Because I'm an idiot. When I went to drop it back off on Monday, I walked in that place, man. It was in the bag. It was in the bag. Drop it off. Yes, sir. Okay. Here's your receipt. I'm like, thank you. I took my ass right the hell out of there.
Well, don't ask me any questions. I'm leaving. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, until next week. Adios. Thanks for stopping by. And We will have a guest actually typed in to this episode when it's broadcast. We're going to have Dom Wooding. I was actually supposed to have already done the interview today, but he had to cancel because living 2 hours away from where he trains, over there in the UK. He's a UK-based fighter. So he's got a good excuse. I'll give him that. But, yeah, we're going to pipe him in at the end of the show, and then it'll all be part of one package. So we'll broadcast. We'll actually publish the show tomorrow night, seeing as we're not missing any. We didn't actually mention Bellator that's going on right now, but we wouldn't have been able to predict that anyway because it's going on right now. But yep, till next week, and we'll
all right, gentlemen. Okay, guys.
Probably have something else by then too for another guest, hopefully. See you then.
All right, see you later.
Adios.